Complex PTSD and the dark empath survival mode overlap a lot in what they feel from the inside. Both can come out of a long term narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, and living in constant emotional danger. The dark part, in the way I am using it, can be understood as protective adaptations of a hurt, highly sensitive nervous system rather than something evil or broken. So, what is CPTSD really? Complex PTSD usually comes from long term repeated trauma such as chronic abuse, manipulation, or captivity, not just one event. It often shows up as emotional flashbacks, chronic shame, harsh inner critic, hypervigilancy, numbness, difficulty trusting or feeling safe with people. Narcissistic abuse and gaslighting can absolutely lead to CPTSD because they systematically erode self worth and keep you in a state of fear and confusion and self doubt for years. So, what is a dark empath? In clinical language, a dark empath usually means someone who reads emotions very well, like an empath, but may use that understanding in hurtful or manipulative ways, knowing things, right? Combining empathy with traits like narcissism is pretty much sometimes what a dark empath is. Some. In survivor spaces, though, a dark empath is often reclaimed to mean a deeply sensitive person who was abused, learned to read danger in microseconds, and may have developed defensive, prickly, or vengeful edges to survive. This survivor version is less about being bad and more about being someone whose empathy has been wired around pain, threat, and protection instead of safety and mutual care. They had to become the narcissist and gaslighter and the abuser in order to survive that. So, how does CPTSD feels like a dark empath? How do they connect? Well, hypervigilance in CPTSD makes a person extremely turned into tones of voices, tiny shifts in expression, and changes in energy because their nervous system is scanning for danger all the time. So that same skill can look like intense, intuitive empathy, reading intentions before words, feeling others' moods immediately, and anticipating how people will react as a way of staying safe. Emotional deregulation and chronic shame in CPTSD can twist that empathy inward into self blame and outward into explosive anger, emotional withdrawal, or coldness, which are really trauma responses, not lack of care. So, turning empathy dark as survival, what I personally had to do, what many, when gaslit and abused, their nervous system often shifts from wanting connection to prioritizing survival. They may start using their sensitivity to predict, control, and preempt harm rather than openly bond. That can look like mirroring people to keep them calm, reading manipulators to stay one step ahead, or even fantasizing about revenge as a way to feel less powerless, all of which are understandable trauma adaptations. Some people get stuck there and may slide into a genuinely harmful behavior while others keep their core compassion and eventually use their hard-earned awareness to protect themselves and support other people, especially a dark empath mother. The good dark empath with CPTSD, in the sense, is a good thing. It's a good dark empath. Deeply sensitive, hyper aware of danger, wary of trust, and carrying both compassion and anger, healthy anger, just like Jesus got angry from what was done to them. Their empathy is not gone. It is wrapped in armor and guarded by boundaries, suspicion, and sometimes a sharp tongue or a refusal to be naive. With trauma-informed therapy, EMDR, which is what I did, and safe relationships, many gradually shift from using their sensitivity that was mainly used for survival to using it for self-protection, mutual care, and advocacy, like I'm doing on my channels and as a mother. If you want, it is possible to map out your own dark empath traits as trauma adaptations and then explore how to keep the strengths, intuition, boundaries, pattern recognition, while slowly loosening the parts that come from fear. That's what I do. That's the purpose of my channel, is to help inform and help you. Some dark empaths are unable to crawl themselves out of the darkness. I managed to. I don't know survivor deserves being left in that darkness.